I get a good one. Tell me when you're ready and I'll...
We not have a...
6 o'clock.
What do you need? What do you need?
I think I've got one in here.
Yeah, I don't have an extra one.
Okay.
Good?
Are we ready? Are we ready? All righty. If I could have your attention, please, I would like to call the City Council meeting for July 27th to order. If everybody would please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you very much. Linda, roll call, please.
Councilmember King.
Here.
Councilmember Mercado.
Here.
Councilmember Rife.
Here.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Here.
And Mayor Sierra.
Here. Thank you. Alrighty, the next item on the agenda is public comments. This is for any item that you wish to speak about. It can be an agenda item. Usually we wait until we get to that item itself. If there's anything else you'd like to speak about, now is your time to step up. I don't believe I have any speaker slips for public comment. Is there anybody out there who wants to speak on something other than what's on the agenda tonight? Alrighty, then I close public comments, move on to the consent calendar. We have item 1, minutes of July 13th, 2007, regular city council meeting. The list of claims to be approved and ratified for payment to date for fiscal years 2017-18. Monthly activity report, enterprise funds through June 30th, 2017. The monthly treasurer's report, June 30th, 2017. And resolution number 17-13, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Buellton, California, adopting the 2017 City of Buellton Annex to the Santa Barbara County Local Hazard Mitigation Plan. Any questions from council or a motion?
I have a question for Chanel. Chanel, I was working with Carolyn to try to, for the expense reports, she was going to organize the packets to have only one packet instead of breaking it up in multiple packets. So there's only one, essentially one summary. Have we made any progress on that?
We're still doing research about that. It's kind of difficult with our system to have multiple packets as one, but we're still trying to look into it.
Okay.
Item 3 or is it item 4?
That was.
Looks like item 2.
Sorry, I'm going back and forth in the document on my laptop. I don't have the agenda up. I don't. Is it?
Okay.
But I would like to pull because I have more detailed questions in regards to number 3.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve 1, 2, 4, and 5?
Yes, ma'am.
I'll second.
Thank you. Okay, shall we bring it back to 3 or just to go with roll call, Linda?
Okay, Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Oh, aye. Copy.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Rife.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Alrighty. Councilmember Rife?
Yeah, so item number 3, because I want to focus on this. I want to make sure I understand how this is working out. So on the sewer fund, just so I understand, these are all line items, and then on the subsequent page, so I'm talking about 31 in the packet, is that the red and black final totals as we proceed
31.
month to month?
Yes, and it's page 32, so that's month-to-month net from revenue and expenses.
So 31, that's for the 31 is where
Yes,
the totals
31 is
for the
for
sewer fund? Okay.
Yes, that's
And then the water fund is the subsequent fund?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so far, I just want to make sure I understand this. It looks like the water rates, the initial water rate increase, we're not nearly in as bad of a budget dilemma as we were previously, at least to date.
Yeah, today it isn't. One thing to consider, though, is we still haven't expense depreciation, so that's going to come up in the next month or so. So that may make that into the negative.
Did you say expense appreciation?
Depreciation.
Depreciation. Okay, got it. And so what are you estimating so expense depreciation? What is that, depreciation of the?
Depreciation for enterprise funds for water and sewer on any capital assets
Okay, so just
acquired
as-
throughout the year.
Okay, so on the assets themselves.
Yes.
So what are you expecting that depreciation to be?
I'll get back to you. I've been working on that all week.
Okay. Is it going to be a big number?
Typically, they are.
Typically it
Yeah.
is. All right, so that may erase the profits we've seen to date?
Yes, correct.
Great. So we may not be in great news. Okay. Sorry, on this line, on the water fund, same issue, depreciation.
Yes,
Is
that's
that going to
correct.
hit us like a Mack truck as well?
Yes, you can expect that.
So we may having to rediscuss the water rates. Okay. All right. Sorry. Thank you very much.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Madam Mayor.
Do you move?
Yes, sorry.
approve
I'll make a
agenda
motion to
item?
approve it. I apologize, yeah.
Second.
Alrighty, Linda?
Okay, Councilmember Rife.
Aye.
Councilmember King.
Aye.
Councilmember Mercado.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Andrusik.
Aye.
And Mayor Sierra.
Aye. Alrighty.
Due to the many people and standing in the hallway, please speak into the microphone so we can all hear.
We're trying, I think the volume is down a little bit on it.
If I put it up too high, you'll get an echo back.
And
So
the microphone's
talk
outside.
into your microphone.
Yes.
I didn't know that.
Alrighty. The next item on the agenda is one that I truly enjoy doing. It's a presentation. We have a proclamation tonight honoring Steve Schultz, a resident who is the garden coordinator at the San Ynez Valley Botanic Garden. And Mr. Schultz, if you could get in here, I have a proclamation for you. I don't have a microphone, but I promise to talk very loudly.
Well, you can get one.
Yeah.
Here.
Yeah. Speak into it. Speak in.
It's a small room.
It is a small room. All right. Mr. Schultz, well, I will read this, but you can find him almost every day down at the San Ynez Botanic Garden at Riverview Park. He's been instrumental in helping, working with Puck and Eva on creating this wonderland for the entire valley to enjoy. And we thought it was high time to recognize his work. So this is a proclamation recognizing Steve Schultz, garden coordinator at the San Ynez Valley Botanic Garden. It's a little bit long, so comfortable. Whereas Steve moved to the San Ynez Valley in 1963 and graduated from San Ynez High School in 1975. He went on to study landscape architecture at Cal Poly Pomona, where he earned a Bachelor of Science degree in 1993. And whereas Steve opened his own landscaping business, but that was cut short when he was wounded during an attempted carjacking incident. Soon thereafter, Steve moved back to Solvang. And whereas Steve got involved with the nature programs at the Sedgwick Reserve, where he was a docent and started a native plant nursery and seed bank for on-site restoration projects. And whereas Steve is one of the founders of the Santa Ynez Valley Botanic Garden, wherein he created the path layout and master planned the garden. Today, the Botanic Garden continues to grow roots thanks to Steve's devotion and perseverance. And whereas, on a daily basis, Steve can be found at the Botanic Garden weeding, organizing volunteer groups, helping to build trails, leading ongoing planting programs, collecting seeds, and coordinating maintenance projects. And whereas Steve welcomes young and old to the Botanic Garden and is instrumental in providing exciting and interesting outdoor education to everyone he comes in contact with. And whereas soon Steve will be spending many hours at the propagation structure, I'm almost done, where he will be propagating seeds that were collected during the spring. Steve continues to inspire kids, young adults, volunteers, and visitors whose lives are richer for Steve's presence and grace. Now therefore I, Holly Sierra, Mayor of the City of Buellton, hereby recognize and thank Steve Schultz for his hard work and dedication at the Santa Ynez Valley Botanic Garden at Riverview Park. Thank you.
Yes. Thank
thank you all. You're welcome to come down and help me pull weeds. You know, a garden is always a work in progress, and the more hands we have to help, the faster it becomes something exceptional. So I welcome you all to come down there anytime during daylight hours. The park is closed at night. And I try to get down there in the mornings to do a little work before it gets too warm. But thank you all, and thank the City Council, and thank you, Madam Mayor.
It is an exceptional park, and thank you. Did you two want to say anything quickly, or?
I'll just say something real quick.
You can do it here or you can go.
Okay, I'll stand next to Steve.
Yes.
Is this on?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I just want to say how much Steve's presence means in my own personal life and in the life of this garden. You know, building a garden out of a dump site is a vision, and to have someone to share that with who would just roll up day after day and say, you know, it's just Bermuda grass, I can pull that out, or, yeah, we just need to build another trail, and I can do that. His spirit just is a constant inspiration, and thank you.
Thank you.
I will say one thing, this gentleman is at Mother Hubbard's quite often. If you happen to see him in there, buy him lunch, dinner, breakfast. I see him in there a lot, so thank you.
I don't like cooking for myself, so.
Thank you for everything.
Check your mail.
Thank you for coming, Steve. Yeah, truly. Thank you. So how lucky are we to have somebody like that in our valley? Any public hearings tonight?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Council member comments, items to come up? Councilman Reif, anything from you?
No, ma'am.
All righty. Vice Mayor Andrasik?
It's here.
Okay. Councilmember Mercado?
Not at this time.
Councilmember King?
No, ma'am.
I just had two quick ones. First of all, we got a very nice letter from a new resident in town complimenting one of our Park and Rec employees, Paul Smith. And I just wanted to send a kudos out and thank our Park and Rec department. We have some excellent employees over there, and Paul does a great job. So it was nice that one of our residents recognized him. Also, I've noticed that it's dry and it's hot out there, and our lawns are starting to look like it. And the city does have a cash for grass program up to, is it 750?
Correct.
If you want to get rid of that dried up old lawn and turn your yard into something nice looking, the city does have a cash for grass program. So check it out before you do any digging. Okay.
Yeah, and get a permit first.
Usually don't need a permit. Approval. Approval. You need an okay.
Whatever it costs.
You need an okay.
I did the whole thing, but I didn't get it approved. I showed them pictures, but I didn't.
You did it, you came into City Hall after you did it.
Yes.
Yeah.
My screw up.
Well, any written communications?
No, ma'am.
Committee reports. Vice Mayor?
I have three, Madam Mayor. Last week, we had the annual meeting of the Joint Powers Insurance Association, or JPIA. For the benefit of people in the community, our city is insured by a communitive program. We have 116 who insure ourselves. We're self-insured. We're a member agency. It's proven to be very fruitful for us. They have grown into insurance loss prevention. If anyone's had insurance issues, you know that loss prevention is your biggest thing to get control of. They brought to our attention at the meeting last week, we had 79 of the 116 were there. We meet the third Wednesday of every July in Cerritos. They had 38,000 training contacts. And you and I were privy to that as it rolled out, reviewing what they saw needed improvement and what they appreciated us doing. So it's a worthwhile program, and would like you to know that the city is ranking very well with insurance. That's how we're carried in insurance, for your information. The second thing was yesterday we were invited to the Santa Barbara Wine Country Vintners Association. It was an economic forecast professionals that do business with wine and wine sales. Economic Alliance, they're called. It was at the Marriott. It was about a 5-hour presentation, and it was well worth the time to go, and I appreciated them sending us an invite for that. And finally, last report was this morning's Central Coast Water Authority meeting, board meeting here in Buellton. The one action that was taken was the ratification of the use of appropriate contingency for bypass piping insulation. We took water out of the dam to do some repair, and they want to put it back, and that was approved. But the meeting was there were several things discussed, but I want to tell you that they're alive and well, and we're fine with joint powers. Our Central Coast Water Authority. I'm sorry, we're partners in that. That's where our state water comes from. That concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. Business item number 7, consideration of appointments to the Planning Commission. Mr. Beardzinski.
Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, Planning Commissioner Morgan McLaughlin resigned from the Planning Commission, and Commissioner Mercado is now a council member, so we do have 2 open seats on the Planning Commission. The city advertised to the Santa Ynez Valley News and has posted in public places in the community soliciting applications, and we received 4 applications for the 2 open positions from Dennis Borelli, Patty Hamill, Michael Pointer, and Marcelo Sarkia. And our applications are included with your packet. So the recommendation is that the City Council conduct interviews of applicants and make 2 appointments to the Planning Commission as follows. 1 term of office will expire in 2020, and 1 in 2018. I know Patty is here. I don't know Mr. Borelli, and I haven't seen the other 2 applicants. And Michael Pointer indicated he could not attend. He was on vacation, but he was still interested when I talked with him.
Thank you. First of all, does council have any questions about this to direct to City Manager Beardzinski? No?
Maybe a point of order, just because I was asked to read Michael's letter into
That's the RV one. But we're not.
I thought it was his point. Okay.
No.
I told him we typically make it a part of the record, rather than...
For the Planning Commission, or for...
Said he couldn't be here. So,
Okay.
but in any event, we have it in front of us.
All righty. So Dennis Borelli is not in the audience, and Marcelo Sarkia is not in the audience, and Michael Pointer is not in the audience. That leaves Patty Hamill. Please step up to the podium. You lucky, lucky lady.
Guess it's good I showed up.
Appreciate it.
Persevere.
I'm sorry, point. Oh, you could extend it if you want to. Patty, why don't you go ahead and just introduce yourself and talk about what you...
This is on, yeah, it's on. Okay. Background, why I want to be here. I'm a 14-year resident of Buellton. I have a degree in business finance. I worked for 20-plus years in commercial real estate lending arena, and I want to emphasize lending side of it. I've attended many area planning commissions through the years with my former clients. I can read and understand plans, and between my degree and the financial area, I was with the Department of Treasury as a bank examiner. So I understand policies, procedures, how to implement laws. That's me in a nutshell.
Terrific. Any questions? We've received the applications. Does anybody have any questions?
I think I would ask if she had a preference, and she's the first one here, of which term. would be available.
I would like the 2020, the long term.
Okay.
I appreciate you coming to the mayor's hours and sitting down and talking to me and explaining who you are and what you do and why you're interested. And I see no problem appointing Patty as planning commissioner to 2020.
Her and I had a chat. As a 8-year member, I think she'd be good. I think motivation and attendance
That's key.
is the rather huge factor. So Patty's assured us that she's willing to take both on. So
All righty. Do we need a motion for that one, or
consensus.
consensus?
Consensus.
Consensus?
Each opening one at a time, so the 2020 opening and then the 2018
Correct.
opening,
Right.
separate
Right.
action.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
See how easy it is to get onto a commission? We do have one other vacancy. We have 3 applicants. Unfortunately, they're not here. I don't know, I know the city manager would like to get moving with a full planning commission because we've got a lot of stuff coming up. On the other hand,
But 4 is good as a start, but I'll leave it up to the council's discretion on what they want to do.
I'd like to recommend that we put this back out to the public for application.
I'd agree with that. The one reason is it'd be nice to just talk to them and ask them a few questions. If we can postpone it for a month, because it'll take a month to get, or at least to advertise it out, I would think.
the 3 applicants could just voice their intent to be considered.
Yeah, we can keep the
So
3,
their
but we can
applications
ask
would
for
stay?
additional.
Is that what council wants to do?
I favored filling the 2 seats tonight, but it sounds like we have a majority that would like to keep it going.
Councilmember Rife, you've been on planning commission.
I'd like to see at least show up.
That'd be nice.
I agree with you on that one.
At least show up.
Sure, I'm kind of with Ed, to be honest.
Okay.
But
Okay.
that's 3 versus 2.
Oh, either way, we got 4 applications for 2 positions, which is really pretty nice. Usually, it's hard to get interest in
Well, the other
helping
position,
out.
let's remember the other position's only through
The end of next year.
Yeah,
A year and a half.
It's a year and a
That's
half,
fine,
so
yeah.
that's a big
That's fine.
difference. So, it's
Yeah,
not a 4-year
Marcelo-
commitment at that point. It's a year. It's a year.
Marcelo did show up twice.
Marcelo has continually
for the
expressed an
council
interest.
appointment, and he applied for this one. And so,
Okay, would you like to
fine.
put Marcelo in for the 2018 appointment?
I don't see why we wouldn't. But it's up. You want to have the 2 to 3 vote?
It's not who I had in mind, but
Marcelo may not
well,
want
I
to
think
be.
the other folks would prefer to interview him, so we're kind of caught between a rock and a hard place.
Sure.
I'd like them to at least show up.
Should we just,
Okay.
instead of opening it up again, just to extend the 1 position and the 3 applicants and give them an opportunity to show up at the next meeting?
I say we do both.
Yeah, me
Let's
too.
open it up and extend it. That'd be a recommendation. If we're going to open it up, if we're going to extend it, we might as well open it up as well.
Right.
And keep
I
it
agree with
free as
that.
well.
I just think, especially with the new person, Mr. Borelli, being a new citizen, just to get his opinion what he sees here in Buellton.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, 1 second. Let me
Yes.
just talk with the city clerk about the.
Yeah, so what we put in the paper was an application period for a specific period of time that ended on the 18th of July, so I don't know how we can extend that, and the notice is extended.
Would have to be new notice.
Yeah, but they want to extend it, so if we're gonna redo it, we just do a new notice and put
To
it for
extend
a
the
certain period of
application.
time.
You'd open it up for.
Yeah, so we're not extending, we're just redoing.
It's kind of a verbiage distinction, but.
And they can resubmit their
Yeah,
application.
do they have to resubmit their
No, I think
applications?
their
though?
applications would be deemed resubmitted.
We would just contact them and see if they're still interested.
Okay.
Is that?
That's fair. I think we need to.
I think that's too short.
Yeah, too short.
Probably first meeting in September.
First
So you
meeting in
gotta get it in the
September.
paper
Yeah.
and you gotta give it time.
It will be probably first meeting in September.
Okay.
We have to
Consensus?
have a motion, or, I'm
It's
fine, I just think that,
consensus.
yeah, that's fine.
I'm gonna go potty before we kick us off.
All righty.
Go ahead.
Okay, so that was item 7. Number 8, I believe, is what most people came for tonight. First of all, I'd really like to thank everybody for coming. I see those signs. I do appreciate, usually our council chambers are pretty quiet, so it's really, really nice to see people standing room only. I'm going to turn this over, first of all, to City Manager Bierdzinski, and then I am going to take public comment. I'll explain how we're going to do it since we have such a large group.
Okay,
you
go with
first.
me first. All right. Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council, on April 27th, the City Council directed staff to bring the adopted parking regulations for recreational vehicles, boats, and trailers back for further discussion. The current regulations were improved in February of this year following a 6-month review and discussion process with 3 meetings and 1 public hearing. On July 14th, that's when council directed staff to come back with some options. On August 25th, actually, July 14th is when they told me to come agendize an item. On August 25th, council directed staff to come back with options for parking. And on October 27th, staff presented various options to the City Council, and council directed staff to proceed with an ordinance preparation. On January 26th, the first reading was held on the wording that was directed by the council, and on February 9th, the second reading was held and the ordinance went into effect, with enforcement to begin in September of this year. The stated purpose of the revised regulations was to improve the aesthetics and safety of the city's residential neighborhoods. Research by staff has determined there are approximately 60 currently being parked or stored outside in the front yards on residential properties that could be affected by the revised ordinance. So we tried to develop something, and the council tried to develop something that tried to look at the public health, safety, and general welfare for the entire community for storage of these items. So the current regulations were developed to try to achieve this balance between the property rights of all residents in the city, both owners of RVs and non-owners. With enforcement delayed until September of 2017, it is uncertain how many of the estimated 60 properties can comply with these regulations. We have been contacted by 6 residents so far and have worked with them on how they can properly store their RV, boat, or trailer. 4 of them were able to comply with the new regulations. One was a little upset, and we met on the property, and they moved it back 10 feet and put up a fence, and they're good to go. 3 others were smaller trailers that they could accommodate either in the side yard or the backyard. 2 people we met with would not be able to comply with the new regulations. So every city in the state has some form of regulation for storage of these items. They range from no storage in the front yard, like Solvang and Carpinteria, to minimal restrictions in the front yard, like Arroyo Grande and Goleta, and then there's various options in between. The City Council should take public input and then provide direction to staff on whether any changes to the existing regulations are appropriate. The following options could be considered. Leave the wording as is and allow the regulations to go into effect and monitor its effects. Process an ordinance similar to the regulations that were in place in 2008 and changed in 2017 to allow storage of one anywhere in the front setback area on a paved surface. Prohibit storage in the front setback area, such as Solvang and Carpinteria, and only allow storage in the rear and side yard areas, or modify the wording of the ordinance to expand the area of storage in the front setback area. And just to refresh your memory, this is the current regulations of where they can be stored. The side and the rear yard, and in the short side of the lot on a paved surface, or if you had a 3-car garage, you could park it on the 3-car third portion of the driveway. Now, I have some examples I'm going to show of compliance and non-compliance, but they are not Buellton RVs, boats, or trailers. So I just want to show examples from other areas of what is compliance and not compliance, because it, you know.
That was smart.
No, it's. Anyway, the 3 on the right are in the side or rear yard behind a screen fence, so those comply with the ordinance. The 2 boats on the left right now would not comply with the ordinance. However, all they would have to do would be put up a screen fence and they would comply with the ordinance because they are outside of the front setback area. So those...
Lower left.
The 2 lower left. The 2 on the left. They would comply if you put a fence up or some screening. They would meet the ordinance with some screening. They would not have to move at all in the location. And these examples are all vehicles that are in the front setback area on the short side or on the driveways that would not comply with the ordinance. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Those are the ones who would not be able to comply with the ordinance. Too large, not enough space, unless you had room in the side yard or the rear yard to move them in. So, you know, those are just kind of a few examples just so people can get a feel of what the ordinance does allow and does not allow.
Okay.
And so just remember, whatever moves forward, you're going to have people that are not going to be happy one way or the other. As you can see tonight, there are people unhappy with the current, and there are people that are happy with it. If you change it, it could flip around, do different types of things, but you're trying to provide a balance and equity for all 5,000 residents in the city, and I believe that's the council tried to achieve a balance with the previous ordinance to do that. And with that, I will turn it back to the mayor to set the ground rules.
Thank you very much. Alrighty, first of all, before we get public comment up, do council members have any questions of the city manager about what he just said?
I have one.
Councilmember Mercado?
Mark, the 2 that can't comply, that got in touch with you, are they because of the units are too big, or the property not situated properly, where they have a front setback that, like the 3rd car
I think there was not enough to get into the back, so it was a little too large of a vehicle to get into that particular, into the backyard and side yard areas.
Okay.
Alrighty. Okay, so these are my ground rules. And again, I truly appreciate, it's so nice to see people here. This is really, really nice. We are going to open this up for public comment. Our speakers are allowed 3 minutes. Because of the size of this group, I truly appreciate you keeping it to 3 minutes or less. If you start to go over the 3 minutes and I do that means you need to wrap it up. If anybody who has turned in a speaker slip would like to give their time to one other person for a maximum of 6 minutes, that will be allowed tonight. And the other one is that I have taken these speaker slips, the city clerk has handed them to me as they have come in. So I am not picking anybody, I am taking the slips as they came, so there is no preferential treatment given to anybody. I truly appreciate with a crowd this size that you've all been very respectful of each other. I hope we can continue doing this, and let's get going. First speaker up, Barbara Connect.
Okay, good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. I'm just going to read this and then I'm just going to walk out. I would like to start by saying that we brought the RV parking ordinance 17-02 to your attention a year ago, July. Not because I had an issue with a neighbor, but because the wording of the ordinance is what led us to the problem we face today. I want to be very clear, I never once used anybody's name or address in comments or evidence presented to this council, although I have been character assassinated because I brought this to your attention. After 6 months of review, the City Council voted in January by a 4-1 vote to go back to the original ordinance before the loosening of standards 9 years ago. And here we are again. You know, as parents, and you all are parents, I believe, You make decisions that are not always received with compliance and acceptance, but you know that in the best interest for everyone. I believe this is why the council voted in January to change the ordinance back to the format that protects our neighborhood character. I hope you will be thoughtful guardians and stewards and do what is best for the community moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All righty. Terry Westfall. We're all being respectful, right? Terry.
Good evening. I didn't think I was going to be up next, so I wasn't prepared. I would just like to encourage the City Council to remember that the decision is not just for today, it's for 10 and 15 years down the future. So the 60 might not be, oh, we can get along with that. It's what happens when there's 200. And to be honest with you, I've lived next door to somebody who's a hoarder for 20 years, and it doesn't go away. And it might be an extreme case, but if you live next door to the extreme case, it's very painful. So I want you to look at what Buellton needs to be and to continue to grow in that fashion. Buellton, if you've lived here for a long time, Buellton wasn't always this place to come. It wasn't always a destination. It was a pass-through town. And now with the work of the Planning Commission, the City Council, the school board, the Chamber of Commerce, it really is a destination. I really would like to see the charm and character of Buellton maintained. I'm not against RVs, I'm not against camping, I'm not against property rights. I just want to see some character maintained, and usually that requires some sort of guidance.
Thank you very much. Okay. And I would appreciate counsel, unless it's something really, really important, that we're just going to listen to them tonight. Next speaker, Alan Westwood.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. I live in Buellton, and I just wanted to, when this whole thing blew up like a storm, I do have a trailer, and I had a boat, but I sold it. I listened to some of my neighbors. Some of them felt this would be a hardship, $3,000 to $4,000 a year for a storage facility if they didn't comply with your regulations. But I just wanted to mention to you all that I look at this in an analogy of, like, I've had condos before, I've been in PUDs. When I bought my home, I bought a home that suited my needs, and I paid a hefty price for it. So to take away one of the advantages that I got with that home when I bought it, to me that's a monetary impact as well as a personal lifestyle impact. I know that someone, if they had a third of an acre or whatever's required more, and they could have horses, and all of a sudden you change the rules and they can't have horses anymore, that's going to be a serious financial and lifestyle impact on their property. With that said, you know, I don't want to go so extreme, and I've heard the terms, I've even used it myself, that changing the rules of a private home and what we bought into is almost un-American. However, we do have to evolve. We have to live like a civilized society. A very smart person, another resident here in town, shared with me the idea of, you know, if you bought in under these certain conditions, and that's what you paid for, then maybe the City Council could look at something like weeding it out through attrition. Maybe grandfather in the people that are already there, and then as people move, a new ordinance might apply. But that way someone knows when they're buying the property what their, you know, the rules are, instead of changing it after they buy the property. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Next up, Peggy Brierton.
Good evening, Mayor Sierra and council members. Peggy Brierton, Buellton resident. I support the ordinance.
Would you move that to your mouth, please? I'd like to hear what you say. Thank you.
Do it again.
Yeah, that's better.
Peggy Brierton, Buellton resident. I support this ordinance with one exception. I believe that the 5-foot setback to the side yards is not necessary, and I would like to see that removed so that it would actually allow quite a few more that can't now park in that front side yard of 5 feet setback to the side yards. If I'm understanding that correctly, we have now a 5-foot setback. I know. So, anyway, that's the only part that I disagree with on the ordinance. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Christine Klukert? I know her. Hello.
Hi, y'all. I'm not very prepared to talk, but it felt to me this came up really suddenly. You say not, but all of a sudden I hear from people, wow, you can't have RVs, you can't have boats. I live over on farmland, really nice little neighborhood. Haven't had any trouble with people with RVs. We had an RV in our truck. We sold it. We're now looking at this cute little item. Can't wait. I have a third garage side. I can park it there legally. But I'm really liking what that gentleman said, that we moved up here from Santa Barbara. I would park my truck and horse trailer in front of my house in Santa Barbara, and I swear ICE was coming because they thought I had, a family coming out of there. We moved away from that to get away from some of that hyper-management, over-management. That's why we came to Buellton. That's why I came to Buellton. That's why I don't live in Solvang, because I wanted more of a friendly family, camping, that kind of neighborhood. So I'm really opposed to this ordinance. I have some neighbors around the corner that have a car that's parked there for 3 years. I can't walk on the sidewalk for the hedge. It's a mess. They may be hoarders. Now should we pass a rule for them? Not everything can be lawed. It needs to be worked out. You need to come to people and talk to them what the problem is. So that's where I stand on it. I think it's kind of undemocratic the way this is going about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Antonio Buell. Please step up. Hi there.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, City Council. My name is Antonio. I am here representing Jim Buell, my father, who could not make it. I just wanted to remind the City Council that my father applied for and received planning direction approval in 2008 for an outdoor storage project for boats, trailers, campers, and other recreational vehicles. And it is located on Thomas Road. The project was later denied on appeal in 2009, and however, my father is willing to move forward with the project if the City Council believes it would help solve the problem that the city is having. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That's a good thing.
Yeah, that's very nice.
That's a solution.
Todd Leffenman?
You're like the Supreme Court.
I don't know. You need a solution.
Good evening. My name's Todd. I've been a resident of Buellton for 8 years. I currently live in the Thumbelina development. I oppose the revisions made to the recreational vehicle, boat, and trailer storage regulations. I own a tent trailer that I park in my front setback area. When I purchased my house, there was a paved front setback adjacent to the garage. I thought that area would be perfect for RV. In fact, I noticed many RVs and boats in the neighborhood. Earlier this year, I purchased a tent trailer to start taking my family to some of the many state and national parks in California. Not only does this trailer serve as a way to recreate, but it serves as a lifeboat for my family in the event of an emergency or natural disaster. I would not want to rely on going to a storage yard, most likely outside of the city limits, and hoping that I could retrieve an essential part of my family disaster kit. Having studied emergency management in graduate school, I know that having a well-trained and prepared citizenry is essential to disaster preparedness and mitigation. In March, after the city enacted the ordinance revisions, I received a letter from the city manager. In the letter, it identified me as having an RV, boat, or trailer stored in my front setback area. The letter continued and states, quote, "Staff has not determined at this time whether or not your recreational vehicle, boat, or trailer complies with the revised regulations. I do not understand how the city could revise an ordinance and yet not know whether the law applied or not. In my mind, this shows that the city rushed to amend the ordinance and asked the members of the City Council to drop these revisions. I think the council members' time would be better served to its residents by discussing traffic, congestion, and crime mitigation around the city's new developments. Thank you."
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you. David Berkeley? David Berkeley, is he the one that walked out? Okay. Passing on David Berkeley. Scott Aiken.
I'm the owner of what's defined as an RV by the Buellton Municipal Code, specifically at...
I'm sorry to say that.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that.
Hard of hearing.
No problem. My family owns a pop-up tent trailer. It's about 4 feet tall when it's collapsed. You know, we take it on our family camping trips. It's shorter than most cars. We have a 2-car garage, and because our RV is too long to fit in the garage, we have to park it on our driveway. When we bought the trailer, we got written notice from the city that our parking situation complied with the previous ordinance. My tent trailer doesn't block anybody's view of the scenery or the street. However, under the new ordinance, our lot is not big enough to store it, and from what I hear, there are no reasonable options yet for storing it. We'll have to take it out of town, spend the money, and not have easy access to it. While I acknowledge that there is merit in the new ordinance, especially regarding perhaps the larger RVs, boats, and trailers, I know I'm not alone in the belief that the new ordinance is just too heavy-handed. At the time the new ordinance was approved, Mayor, you were quoted in the Santa Maria Times as saying, "I know we don't have happy people on either side. You have 6 months for the ordinance to go into effect, and we're looking for options." So therefore, whereas the city has made a verbal commitment and really has a duty to provide reasonable options when restricting the private property rights of RV owners, and whereas the city, to my knowledge, has not yet provided these options, and whereas my pop-up tent trailer does not constitute the nuisance that the new ordinance tries to address, I ask the City Council to consider the following options regarding the new ordinance. At the very least, postpone the enforcement of the new ordinance until the city can provide these options, however long that may take, or allow exceptions to the new ordinance for RVs, boats, and trailers that, first of all, comply with the old ordinance, and second, don't represent the aesthetic or safety issues, those nuisance issues that the new ordinance tries to resolve. And I love what the gentleman said behind me about the grandfather clause. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much, sir. Okay. Stephen Fritz?
Well, I have, thank you for your time. I have not come prepared, so we're going to do this ad hoc, see what happens.
That works.
Exactly. So, like a lot of other people so far here, I'm against this ordinance for the RV storage. Like it's already been said, I feel that what has been changed from the old ordinance to the new ordinance is too constricting. I also live, and I mentioned this last time, and just for the record, I also live in the Thumbelina area. Those are larger lots. I've paved some of my own property for my own personal use for cars, etc. But given the horizontal constriction space between buildings, between property lines, even in that area on the side of the house, I still could not fit any type of trailer and fit within a main building proximity or a property line proximity. If I recall previously, there didn't used to be a property line proximity, at least on the side of a building. That would entail the ability to put a trailer. To sort of point out, a couple other people have mentioned this idea, but to point out a juxtaposition on this, if you were to have a flat trailer or a flat pop-up type trailer that's only a few feet tall, really isn't an eyesore, really can't be seen from the street, that would have to be behind a fence, that would have to be all the way in the backyard. But the opposite of that is I could have a large truck. I could have a 3500 dually that's raised on the side of the vehicle that would not meet any of these criteria, that could be seen as an eyesore, would fill that space horizontally more so, could possibly hinder, pass through more so than a small trailer, yet the small trailer wouldn't be allowed. That, by definition, to me, doesn't make logical sense. I'm not against regulation. I think some regulation as population grows is a good thing. As mentioned, I think it needs to come back out for discussion. More input from the public might be a good idea. Looking around at more houses, etc. The way that it sits, I think you're having too much constriction. You've already seen that, right? You mentioned having 60-odd people most of those people, if not all of them, are going to be impacted severely one way or the other. They're either going to have to sell it, they're going to have to take it to Lompoc, Santa Maria. If that gentleman's father's property opens up, then they can take it to that property, but again, now they're paying, and if you do the simple math, it's $2, $4, $6 grand a year. That's a lot. Again, I don't have a trailer, but I'm into motorsports. I've thought about it. It would be a small, flat trailer, one vehicle. I couldn't put it there. So it's a concern. I think it just needs to be re-looked at and then discussed more in detail, et cetera, with more input from outside. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Sherry Ayuda? Aida, I'm sorry. Never did so. Hi, Sherry.
It's okay, just call me Sherry. Honorable Mayor and City Council, we thank you for revisiting the RV ordinance and being willing to take input from the community. My husband and I have lived here for 30 years and lived in Thumbelina, the same house. My husband was unable to attend this meeting, so I'm speaking on behalf of us both. When I take my daily walks through my neighborhood and I see an RV parked on someone's property, I do not think ugly or eyesore. I think, how nice. Those people like to travel and take excursions with their family, visiting relatives and seeing their country. They found an economical way of doing it. It is incorrect to assume if a person owns an RV that it necessarily follows that he or she can afford to put it in storage off their property. My husband and I don't think the city should be imposing additional financial burdens on property owners. We are opposed to the ordinance because we don't like the city dictating what we can or cannot do on our property, increasingly eroding our rights. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, before I go on, I have 4 speaker slips left. I don't see a Larry Rankin speaker slip in here. If there's anybody else who's going to want to speak on the subject, now's the time to fill out your slips and turn them in to our city clerk. I'm going to start. Our next person up will be Scott Parrish.
You're so rare.
I'm trying.
No, you're good. Thank you.
Mr. Parrish.
How's it going? I'm Scott Parrish. First of all, I'd like to say, when did America not become America? I mean, we have our properties. We should be able to do what we want on our own properties. It's our property. We pay our taxes. We pay for the house. I bought my house under the impression it had RV storage because I have actually 2 separate driveways. I have another driveway that's poured into the curb, and it was sold as RV parking because there's an actual curb in the driveway. So I didn't know this ordinance was even taking place. I got a letter in the mail saying I wasn't going to comply. It's the only reason why I purchased the house 2 years ago. So obviously when I got the letter, I was extremely upset. That's why I came in and threw a fit with everybody in the office. I was like, who in the hell came up with this BS? And I was really upset because I'm a single dad. I work hard. I fish. I hunt. My son is right there. One hell of a kid. That kid could catch more fish than anybody. So it really upset me because as hard as I work, it got to me. I was just like, I'm doing everything I could do, and now I can't even park my trailer or my boat. So I was upset. So I apologize to the people that I offended when I came in. I'm extremely sorry for that, but that just got to me when I found out I couldn't park my belongings. So I'm totally against the ordinance, and I think there's other ways you guys could have went about it, you know, like, as far as I see, most of these people are totally against it, so I don't understand why it's even on the table. If you went door to door like I have, you would find there's 60%, maybe 70% of the people are totally against it. Totally. I haven't found one person that was for it. I found people that were on the fence that didn't want to go either way. They wouldn't sign a petition. But most of the majority say, hell no, we don't want, excuse my language, I'm sorry, say absolutely not. We do not want this ordinance taking place. So that's where I stand, and that's where I'm at.
Thank you very much, Mr. Parrish. Okay. Sharon Parker, you're up.
Okay. My name is Sharon Parker. First of all, I want to say that
I respect the jobs that you guys are doing. My grandfather was an LA City Council member for many years, so I appreciate everything you do for us. I am not a public speaker. I am actually panicking and feeling like I'm going to pass out right now. So bear with me and be patient as I try to get through this. Okay. Reasons why I feel like this ordinance is unfair and unjust. The ordinance doesn't work. Can I hold this?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you. The reasons why I feel this ordinance is unfair and unjust. The ordinance doesn't work for all the various types of homes in Buellton. For instance, our home would be in violation. Although we have a 3-car garage with a driveway with a length of 88 feet and 26.5 feet wide, our trailer sits to the right back of our driveway. Without even parking next to our trailer, we can fit at least 4 cars in our driveway. But because the way of our driveway is formed and our house is turned away from the street, it would be in violation according to the way you guys have written this ordinance. I feel this ordinance has not been thought through, considered all the varying home styles, lot plots, and therefore doesn't work for that reason alone. Our RV is the only real source of our family time and vacation for us. We cannot afford to put it in storage. Having a special needs child makes it so... Sorry.
Oh, you're doing great.
Sorry. Okay. Having a special needs child makes it so we can only have one income household. It also limits us from going anywhere that is new, as it sets off my autistic son. Keeping this ordinance in effect will force us, as I'm sure many others, into selling their trailers and RVs. Sorry. RVs and trailers are a great asset in the event of any tragedy or catastrophic event. My husband, for instance, lived down south during the Northridge earthquake. His family had an RV without water, food, supplies, medications, clothing, and etc. that were stored right inside their home. Wait. Without those things that were... Oh my God, I messed up. Okay. Without those things that were stored inside the RV, they would have not been able to care for themselves and the many other neighbors whom didn't have shelter or supplies. And she's not here, but... So I asked this of the neighbor in question who started all of this. Have you thought about maybe this family who you are seeking to dismantle and destroy neighborly unity with? Don't you believe that they would shelter you, feed you in the event of your time of need? And I know the answer, and it would be yes. These are the type of people that would do what they can for others without asking for anything in return. And does it stop here? First, a trailer and RV ordinance.
Sharon, we got to wrap it up.
Okay, one more thing. I didn't choose to live in a home where it had an HOA, and so what gives the city of Buellton the right to act as one?
Thank you very much, Sharon. Robert Menley. Manili, I'm sorry, sir. So sorry.
Robert Manili, thank you for the opportunity of speaking. I want to say that as a lifelong citizen of 38 years of Buellton, I remember when it was just a town before it became a city. And I want to point out that right now, first, we are not Solvang, we are not Lompoc, we are not Carpinteria, Goleta, Santa Barbara, or anywhere else. We are Buellton, small town, community, country town. And that's what we wish to remain to be. 95% of the people who live here. Okay? I believe firmly in private property rights. I'm totally against the ordinance. Even the grandfather clause, we shouldn't need it. If you know John Adams, our second president, himself said, we would not have liberty and freedom if there was no private property rights. And I would like the mayor and the council to really think hard and consider the importance of private property rights for all of its citizens. And it's very important and essential to our freedoms, regardless of the reasons or what we have on our property. You know, there's a ton of properties in this town I can tell you I don't like looking at. They might have trash in the yard. They might have weeds 3 feet tall. Maybe they don't have means of taking the trash out. Maybe they don't have means of cutting their yard down. But that's worse looking at than a car trailer like I have, or an RV, or a boat. My car trailer will not fit in front of my house no longer with this ordinance. I use it. It's right there 24 hours a day, so if I have a friend or a family member or a neighbor that breaks down in the middle of the night, I can hook up to it and go get them. And it is, in the event of any emergency, essential. You know, just like a lot of the RV trailers are. You know, and I would just like you guys really to consider our private property rights. It's very important. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. Next up, Sheila Miller. Hi, neighbor.
Good evening. I'm not great at public speaking either, so I will try not to faint while I just read this letter from Jesse Skidmore, who couldn't be here tonight. As previously stated, we feel this all started because we chose to buy a trailer for family camping trips. We worked with city code officials to ensure we not only complied, but even received approval from city code enforcer Alan Ader that where we chose to park our trailer on our property complied with the city ordinance that had been established 8 years ago. We have heard no other reason to change the ordinance than to satisfy the visual preference of our neighbor. We worry what sort of precedent will be created by changing city codes based off the fact residents followed the rules, but they want to satisfy what is visually appealing to someone. We feel this encourages the sentiment to say that as a property owner, your rights have been violated when you have to look at something that you don't like to look at. What will happen if neighbors begin to say they find things such as children's toys, palm trees, flags, sculptures, or perhaps someone finds the color red to be a visual eyesore? Will new laws be created to satisfy the visual preference of all Buellton residents, or will just the visual preference of a select few individuals be respected? We all come from different walks of life, and with that come a difference of opinion on what's visually appealing. For laws to get changed on something so subjective seems like it could open the door to some residents being discriminated against. We feel those who would like strict guidelines of how neighbors maintain every detail of their property should look at living in a neighborhood where there is an HOA who manages that. We specifically purchased the home we did because we did not want to live in a neighborhood with an HOA. I feel it is a waste of our city council members' time to act as an HOA and enforce new codes strictly based on what's visually appealing to some, but not others. We are proud of our trailer and we do not see it as an eyesore. We really feel this boils down to a difference in opinion of two neighbors, and instead of changing laws, the neighbors should be encouraged to work on finding a compromise with their other neighbor. We hope the City Council will take more time to reevaluate the real reason goal for the ordinance change. Survey how many residents will be affected, and if the ordinance change is to proceed, be able to provide real solutions to those affected residents. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, I've got 2 speaker slips left. If anybody else is going to turn their slip in, now's the time. I am calling up Mr. Rankin.
Marco, there's something my time until I get these out.
We're already 1 minute in.
Oh my, I love you. You're great. Will you pass these over, please? My name is Larry Rankin. I live in the Thumbelina area. And the papers I just passed out to you, I would like for each one of you to look at the first one first, the picture. And what you're going to see is you're going to see a place that has a three-car garage. And because of a 3-car garage, a person is able to go ahead and put a trailer basically almost to the street. And then if you look at the next photograph, you're going to see another one that's across the street that has a 2-car garage. It looks much nicer, but they're forcing them to put it 20 feet back. But if you look to the left of that, on the second one, the 2-car garage, they could put a vehicle, the RV there, or a trailer, and it would still look nicer than the one you have at the 3 cars. So I don't know if you have favoritism here. One of the things I would like to say is that what I see here is I understand what the mayor and the city council does. What their idea is to go ahead and get an idea, an agenda, and then of course it's up to the city manager to go ahead and make this happen. Well, what I see here is a city manager that really doesn't live in our town. He lives in Santa Maria. And what we have here is we have a person that made something so egregious that it's outstandingly bad, and we're not in other cities. So to me, I think what you overdid it. What this whole thing is about, to me, it's about freedom. And what you're doing, and so many people here expressed it so well, much better than I would ever be able to. Their families. What you're doing is you're taking money out of families that are working really hard to get a boat or an RV to be able to go ahead and enjoy themselves with their family on a family recreation. Will you kids stand up with your notes, please? Go ahead. Stand up. It's okay. And so what you have here is put it over your head. There we go. That's what I love. So what happens here? What happens here is you're taking money out of these children's pockets because their parents now won't be able to afford to take them on a vacation, and this is what they should be doing. Think about that. And one of the things you people need to understand is that I started this whole thing, but I did it, and I am not even affected by this. It's not even affected me. What affected me was me going ahead and fighting in a place like Vietnam, which I have never mentioned that before, in 1968, during the Tet Offense. And now what I'm doing is I'm fighting for the freedom of our country, and I see you people trying to take that away from us. Thank you. Thank you,
Larry. Thank you, Larry. Our last speaker, unless I get any other slips in the next 3 minutes, would be Phil Johnson, please. Phil.
Thank you, Mrs. Mayor and Council. I moved here in 2003. I don't have a trailer, a boat, or a motorcycle. I do have a trailer hitch. And it's just so nice to have the potential.
I like it too.
And when I moved here, people said, where? You know, commonly derided as a truck stop. I mean, this town is awesome, and you guys have done a great job. And it's really come a long way, but let's not kill the golden goose.
That's right.
I just think that if we start being sin sniffers and pointing out our neighbors, it's a bad way to go. So, and I walk around, I also don't mind seeing stuff. I ride my bike around. I love looking at everything. I like the eccentricity, the personality, the possibilities. So, you know, unless there's, you know, rats jumping out of the window, and yeah, it's a nuisance. That's a whole other difference. That's all I have. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. All righty. I have no other speaker slips. Because of the size of this group, I truly hope that you respect the council. When I do close public comment, this is for discussion with the council. Obviously, you're sitting here and we're talking here, but sometimes when we have a really slow night, I'll allow the audience to get back up. Tonight, with this crowd, we are not going to do that. So please respect that. This is your last chance. Anybody want to speak before I close public comment?
I just want to say, Larry, I did not know that. Thank you for your service, sir. Absolutely.
Are you saying we can have more time? No, but you just said, I think, I heard that
Larry,
correctly.
did you want to make one additional quick comment before I close public comment? Okay. When I close public comment, I've allowed you up before in the past, but tonight with this crowd, I cannot do that. If you want to say something very quickly, now is your opportunity.
I can say one thing real quick just from here. When I tore down my fence and I pushed my boat back, can I get that in writing, that my boat's okay right there? Can I get that in physical writing from you, Mark, that that is okay?
That's what we talked about when I was at the site, that you would easily comply by moving back and putting a fence.
That in writing, so I have that in writing.
You can come to the office and we'll talk, yes.
Yeah, no, yes. Yes, he will.
He will give me in writing, coming
Yes.
from you, Holly.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Okay.
All righty.
Perfect.
Last chance, I am closing public comment. We are bringing it back to the council for discussion and direction. We are not making any decisions tonight. This is just to take the input from all of you. Thank you for coming, for talking about it and giving our city staff some type of direction as to where to go. Then it will come back to council again. So, and again, as you can tell from what Mr. Bierdzinski said, we started this over a year ago. This did come to council. It's not something, I read in one of the editorials that council members were amazed at how quickly this went through.
That's for me, and it's true.
And
Many people here will say that. I'm just
Larry,
letting you know.
Larry,
But you
I've
guys
closed
can't
public
stick
comment.
with it.
I have closed public comment.
Doesn't matter, I'm still giving you my comment.
Whoever gave you that information slept through a lot of council
No,
meetings.
I watched the reviews.
Okay. All righty, bringing it back. Larry, you got to behave. You got to behave. Bringing it back to council for discussion.
Madam Mayor,
Certainly.
I ask that this be reconsidered because that was the sentiment in the community. When 1702 came in, it was immediately disliked by everyone that saw it, that would at least talk about it. So I said, what should we do? And I brought up the fact that we had an offer to do RV storage, and a previous city council shut it down, or made it so untenable that the property owner chose not to do it. Well, that property owner is back and willing to help us in the quest for a place to go. There is no place. The urban growth boundary tells us we can't go outside of our city without asking permission from a group. That being said, I looked at our city, our staff report, and the subject says discussion and direction regarding recreational vehicle parking. I think we've gotten discussion, and I think we've gotten an overabundance of direction. I think I'd asked originally, and I appreciate the council, and I know it was a hard thing to do, to ask us to reconsider this. This is the right thing to do. Regardless how you want to vote on it, this was the right thing to do for this community. This community makes the municipal code. We've changed the municipal code. How many times have we changed the municipal code? I mean, we change it a lot because we feel we're making a better presentation, or we're allowing the majority of the citizens better protection by doing it. In our municipal code, it says the purpose is to protect residents of the city and their property from conditions which are hazardous or injurious to health, safety, and welfare. I'll read on. It says, of the general public. This chapter pertains to nuisance abatement. But we've heard from everybody that says if we're forced to modify, we may not be able to be here. So that's going to be hazardous to their lifestyle, to their health, and their welfare. That's stretching it a bit, but I think I'm trying to make a point that this is an overhand of government that it's not necessary in this community. The people that have come and said they would like to have the old ordinance grandfather, I asked, could we grandfather? Just matter of factly, it didn't take 2 minutes to say, no, we can't grandfather. I guarantee you can grandfather it. Everybody that's got a cell phone can take a picture of anything that's existing, and it's there, and it can't be moved, if that's what we wanted to do. I think one of the major problems we've had, and I don't fault Ben, our code enforcement person. He can only do as much as he is here for. If this is an important deal, we should hire more code enforcement people And as I've always said, I don't like the complaint. I know I've always been overruled. It's complaint-driven. We're seeing what happens when someone complains about it. This has hit a nerve with so many people, and I really would hope that you would reevaluate the effectiveness of what we've created. 1702 is only going to create animosity within the community. We have a current home HOA under wraps right now. It's being built over in the new shopping center. What's it called? No. Vineyard. The Vineyard House. Those people are going to be. They're absolutely directed exactly how they're going to go. A lot of people don't want to live like that. So I think that's what we don't want to turn the community, the whole town, into an RDA. I mean a HOA. So that was my reason for asking it. I appreciate it being here. I thank all of the people that have come. I especially thank the Buell family for being willing to solve our problem. They could solve our problem. And I don't have a problem if we assist with the cost of people having to store there some sort of allowance. I've had citizens tell me they don't want to be given free. They don't want that being taken out. I want to bring to your attention, we have a beautiful park. It's only beautiful because we take care of it. And that is a little over $300,000 a year that we spend to keep our park up. If this is important enough to us, that's why I suggested we secure a piece of property and then we say, you need to take it there, but we can't have everyone, it's not supposed to be a dumping ground. We're supposed to be responsible adults with it. So that was the feeling I had about it. I like the 0802. I wouldn't have any problem if we went back to it. I don't have any problem with agreeing to the majority of the council because that's the way we operate. But I really appreciate the people that came out to say their piece. Thank you.
Councilmember Rife, comments?
Always make me go first or second. Okay.
Would you like to hold off a minute?
Yeah, I'm trying to organize my thoughts, if you don't mind. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Mercado?
I'll go.
Okay.
Being the new person here. I agree with a lot what Ed said today. I was part of the planning commission that approved the original RV park for Dr. Buell, and we worked a lot with him to make that work for everybody. I'm also a big property right person, but I also believe we have to have some rules. You can't just, and I know things have changed. You look at just what you talked about, the small little club tent. You also have some of the big toy haulers. The houses haven't changed in the older neighborhoods. I live in Thumbelina. We bought that house with the idea that we could have, it was sold to us with RV parking and stuff like that. We don't have an RV, but if we had the opportunity to take one, we could put it there. So some of these that are in Thumbelina, they might be better off to be grandfathered in because that's the way those properties were sold, and they have those abilities. So there's certain things that could be changed that I feel, and I do know some young people. She has lived here for over 35 years in Buellton, born and raised here, and they have a young child, and they moved because they wouldn't be compliant. I think that's it's sad. She's up and young, up and coming. They're mobile. Things have changed. I mean, but I also see that, like I said, when you have those big motorhomes sometimes parked on the streets, and like, you got to regulate. Whether people like it or not, whether people like it or not, there's some things that can be accepted, others just can't. So I agree with Ed. I think we need to relook at this and make it so it can work out better for everybody. There's some acceptance, and I just think that's something that we need to go back and look at, and whether we go back to the 08 one or change some things here to make it worthwhile. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember King?
Oh, it's my turn now.
Are you ready, or would you?
Yeah. The thing that I have a problem with is this. Putting it in your yard.
That's it.
I mean, does anybody think that you should have an RV in your yard?
That's not in the yard, that's on a driveway. Take a better look.
You mean the trailer that's there? That's just temporary.
Here's the driveway.
Where's the
Somebody
owner?
put
There's a
another.
driveway over
That is
there.
a driveway.
Okay.
That is a
This is the owner.
Are you
Of that
kidding me?
building.
Really?
What you're doing is assuming.
Hey!
Relax.
That is a port
needs to
driveway that has
understand
a
the truth.
curve.
Not to make
Then let the owner of the properties, then let the owner of the property.
Relax. Relax.
Okay.
We really need to let
That's
it,
a curve bordered
got
with
it.
the street.
I got it. Relax. But that could also be concreted in.
it is.
This could be concreted in over here, and that boat could go on this side of the house. Okay?
I'll just leave.
On this
But
side.
you already told us it can't be there.
Relax.
And then you made it over shit, so it's fucking.
I'm not so opposed to this.
That's just fucking gay.
Don't say that.
I'm not so opposed to this, if you guys have seen this picture. What I personally have a problem with is some of these trailers, and I have seen pictures of these, or I have looked at them, is that it goes from the house all the way to the curb line. Now, that's a little ridiculous, and being in law enforcement, being in traffic, I have a problem with you blocking your neighbors from driving out of their driveway because your trailer is all the way to the curb line. That's what I have a little problem with. I would not be opposed to modifying this to where it was closer to your property line on one side and a farther distance, but at least 5 feet away from the street, because it makes it difficult for someone to back out of their driveway. They're taking their chances by having that trailer all the way to the curb line. So that's my issue.
That's already addressed in the original ordinance. I think it was 8 years ago, 7, 8 years ago, maybe 9.
But some people are parking them all the way to the street.
Enforce the first ordinance instead of write a new one.
Okay.
Okay.
Sorry to interrupt.
Do you want to go, do you want me to go?
No, I'll go.
Okay.
This is a complete lose-lose situation. I've said that 4 times. I'll continue to repeat it again. This will be the 5th time I've said this. No one wins in this scenario. So I've had, now granted, the people here are a vast majority against the ordinance. I've had a number of emails for the ordinance. Now, I'm not saying that, just take that for what it is. So I will say that I voted to bring the ordinance back, because I think for a few reasons I don't think it's equitable. I think the way the current structure of the ordinance is written does very well for some of the people in the newer neighborhoods. I live by the dog park, and those, we don't have an option for a third driveway, literally. So you're de facto kind of, against, you can't meet the requirements of the ordinance out the gun. So I've talked to so just to be transparent. So the issue, I guess, is my neighbor across the street, pretty much across the street and a few over. She has her RV on her front yard. Literally, she took out grass and put in the stuff and parked it on her front yard, literally. And then the neighbor across the street, unrelated to that, they have overgrown weeds about 5 feet high, and the code enforcement officer has to come every 3 months and ask her to whack down. My parents come and visit. They're from Dallas, Texas, and she knows how much I paid for the house, which is a lot of money. I'm younger than a lot of you. And she asks how I pay that much money, and I have an RV on the front yard in one and weeds on the other. So now, that being said, I've talked to multiple neighbors, many of which I'm friends with, that have RVs parked in their driveway. And while I personally feel it's not neighborly to park a very large RV in your driveway right next to your neighbor, I also see the argument that it's your driveway and you should be able to park whatever you want on your driveway. And you shouldn't have to comply with a third driveway or build a third driveway, and many houses, that at least near me, can't even build that anyway. So now, that being said, I will agree with Ed, and slightly with Ed, and also mainly with Dave, and Art, I won't exclude Art, that I think, well, Holly hasn't gone yet, so I don't know, I may disagree with her. that parking on your front yard creates a precedent that I think is unbecoming of our city, moving forward, period. I'd be willing to accept an option of parking in your driveway with very minor setbacks to accommodate the vast majority of people, I think. But I just think that if we go down the road of front yards, then I think we've given it all away. We have rules for front yards. We have nuisance ordinances for front yards. And I think that's like the boundary, at least in my mind. So my neighbor probably doesn't like me, but I think that's just kind of a boundary that shouldn't be crossed. So I would propose for consideration an update to the ordinance to allow driveways, with very minor setbacks to allow a vast majority of folks. I think we should leave some of the requirements in about not allowing stuff in front yards. I think that's not good. The other idea that I would float to the council, because I think we're kind of downplaying that because when I got elected, I marched to every house in the city. We're talking about like 3,000 homes or something crazy. We're talking about 60 residents, and I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone coming. Of the 60, it sounds like some of them have been met. Most of them have been met. Maybe we do, and I'll just throw it out there. I'm game either way. I'm game with updating it to the driveway or not, but I'll throw it out there that maybe we give a 3-month continuance, allow the 60 residents to come to the city, have the city evaluate their property, and maybe we could actually determine, well, look, 30 people automatically move it 5 feet or whatever, and they're in compliance. I don't know. Or maybe all 60 of them, there's no way they're compliant, and maybe then we can have something to work off, but either way, I'm okay with it. I'll throw that out there as an option, but I do think we need to fix what's in there now. It's not equitable. So all right, I'll shush now.
No, that was good. First of all, Mark, could you explain this grandfathering in? It was discussed multiple times, and could you we asked if any of this could be grandfathered in.
Yeah, anything could occur. We could do the grandfathering, but it is a tracking nightmare, and then if you decide a certain date that it's going to be grandfathered and others, bring those in, then you're grandfathering a lot more than the ones that are currently out there. Okay. But it's just a tracking nightmare. That's basically it.
Okay. So that was one of them. First of all, again, I'm really grateful that people came out. Larry, I'm very, very impressed with your 200+ signatures that you and your group, that all of the volunteers went out and got. That was very impressive. It only takes, is it 25 or 35 signatures to run for council? Think of that next year, guys.
Mayor.
Or mayor, absolutely. I really thought, I was the one person who really wasn't in favor of bringing it back. The reason for that was because we started this a year ago, and while you and I agree to disagree, I really thought we were pretty thorough. And it was put out there. I was reading Facebook from RV owners who said, I can't make the meeting. Could anybody else get there and speak up for us? So I really didn't feel that both sides were not represented. We tried really, really hard. I know I've got 2 council members who have since left the council, but I think we tried really, really hard to try to make a compromise, to make things work for most of the RV boat trailer owners. Truly do appreciate rights of property owners. And I truly appreciated when Dr. Buell set about with his lot to store all these. The disagreement came, unfortunately. We wanted a wall, he wanted a chain link fence, and he withdrew it, and we were very sorry to hear it because your father is very respected in this community. And the idea that he's interested in coming back is truly something our community could use. I think Councilmember King hit it with adjusting driveways, the lines. A nuisance to me is when it's unsafe, if you can't walk down the sidewalk without hitting the side of an RV or a trailer or a boat or a hitch sticking out into the sidewalk, that's a nuisance to me. Being able to move it next to your neighbor's fence and keeping it clear enough so it's not a danger to anybody, that is not a nuisance to me. If you have a boat or an RV that's sitting on somebody's front lawn, I think that's a nuisance to other neighbors. I do. I do, and I don't think that that should be allowed. The city does have the right to create ordinances for nuisances, and those are the two nuisances that I see. I'm more than willing to work with city staff to create an ordinance so that as long as that boat or RV is tucked up and is not impeding the sidewalk, the 5 feet, if it is 5 feet, in Thumbelina they don't have sidewalks, so you have to kind of measure. Some of them have sidewalks in Thumbelina.
No.
No.
There's
None
no
of
sidewalks
them.
in Thumbelina.
None.
I live there.
None. Did you used to?
I got rid of it.
Okay, okay.
There was one.
Okay.
There was one, and it was taken out.
Okay, yeah. So that's where I'm coming from. I see a nuisance as an RV, a boat, a trailer sitting on somebody's front lawn. I see a nuisance when it's not safe for somebody to walk down the street. And other than that, I'm pretty open.
Madam Mayor, you know, the Solvang's issue with 14-foot motorhome, and they amicably settled on a 6-foot fence. It's aesthetics. The lady, husband has died, she has a big motorhome, she rolls it out. It's on roller skates. Puts it in front of her motorhome. When she wants to go, she rolls it away and she drives away. It's just that it is an impeccably kept residence. The motorhome is there. The fence is there. That has been accepted there, and that's not trying to copy Solvang, but I'm just suggesting that for example, the Skidmore situation, I think we had side discussion. Would you be willing to put a fence where there's a gate of some sort? The fact that we told them it was in compliance, that I guess is what's called a lot of people, but to mitigate this, if we had a way to bring up a partition so that it's clear that that is their property, and if they want to have that line. Now, I used to live in the Frederick's houses, and many of the people have come in there and taken what used to be a patio area. It was a block wall Frederick's built, and they've put roof on it, and it's now part of the house. Other people have come out from the wall, and they're reasonable. They're not coming out to the sidewalk. I think a lot of things could be mitigated by, I don't have a problem with a 10-foot thing being behind a 5-foot or a 6-foot wall. I think that would probably solve that. That would be a flexible idea. And again, that's what our Planning Commission is for. I think the Planning Commission could resolve many of these things rather than someone pounding and saying, here's what the ordinance says, and that you're going to do it, or we're going to do something against you. And so that's I think what the networking should be.
Aren't you glad you're on Planning Commission?
But I think that a lot of these can be, you know, the lady that came and told us at the last hearing that she can't see, the people that have written the emails that they can't see, it's not clear in the street. That's bad.
That's a safety nuisance.
Every home that we've bought, they've had a requirement. You can't have a fence over 4 foot high out to the sidewalk for safe.
And we have that too.
I know we do. But I'm just suggesting that if we opened our minds about how can we make this work rather than what's so wrong with it, I think we'd get a lot more workability with the parties involved. And there's clearly some things that are not, that nobody wants it. And we don't want them skating through going, well, you know, I want this, or I'm going to pitch a fit. I think we could tune it up, and I would appreciate us giving it another look. I thought the simple thing was to go back to the '08. I haven't found anybody that doesn't like the '08-02. Is there anyone here that didn't like that one?
Amongst us?
Well, of course,
Anybody in the audience? Well, we had, and in '08-02, when it was passed, there were 2 members from the previous council that had written that one, and they were the only 2 that objected because they felt bad that they had created the perfect ordinance, and we thought we improved it. And I think, and it's been holding for 8 years, but we haven't, I think we've dropped the ball from the city code enforcement wise. I think we need to make, if it's that important an issue, we need to put more revenue, more resources towards it. And not neighbor against neighbor reporting, not the complaint. Just, let's go and just, simple note.
Okay, so let's get a consensus from council. First of all,
I think we have, it sounds like we have one between Dave, you and I about the front
the driveway?
about the front yard. Being,
but
I mean, Dave, I don't want to speak for you, Dave.
No, I mean, I agree with you, and I think regardless of whether they put a driveway or concreted this in, it's technically in their front yard, what was originally designed as their front yard. I mean, I agree with you about being in the yard, and that is in the yard. Now, in my opinion, you could concrete that in and put that boat over there.
I think actually, I don't want to speak specifically, I don't know about this one, but
generally, that's what I'm saying, though.
Sure.
Is put these on, not in front of a 3-car garage, but if there's room in a side yard, to put it on the side yard as long as it's concreted in.
Well, I think for Mark, though, we need to form a consensus on postponing the current ordinance, which I think we're all in agreement on, and then the second part would be guidance as to ways ahead. So it sounds to me like there is consensus for the postponement, and then the second part of there is consensus, although majority, not unanimous, on the front yard issue and allowing driveways. That's my understanding of the consensus, but I don't want to speak for anybody else.
So you're just driveway, no other portions of the front yard?
Well, so we get into this issue about like concreting in the front yard and whatnot.
Well,
I haven't got my head wrapped around
driveway to the garage, whether it's 2-car or 3-car. That would be.
Well, I don't want to I don't want to eliminate this gentleman either. I don't want to get my head wrapped around that yet. Like, if you can pour in or whatever, maybe that's something for discussion. I get that there's a million permutations here, so right. I get that. So, I mean, what form of details are you looking for to form consensus?
How about a cooling off period and give about 2 weeks to receive input from the community? That's great. Then, and we don't have to do any of it. But let people tell us what they think.
I'm not opposed to that, but historically, at least as every email I get, there's no good ideas. It's this is horrible, or this is the best thing in the world. This is horrible, or this is the best thing in the world.
Okay.
And when I try to form consensus with them or form compromise, I get even attacked even worse. So I'm not opposed to that.
No,
I'm game for that, but I'm just wondering if
2 weeks isn't very long. It's only 14 years.
Because what I'm hearing is some people want driveways, some people want to allow paving in other parts of the front yard. So I'm just not sure where everybody is.
Let me just talk about what Dave keeps holding up is a truck that's sitting well within the lot, the person's property, and if there were a fence that came out where a gate was and he parked that truck there, that would not be the front yard then.
Well, front yard is front yard. If 20 feet back from your property line is your front yard, so if you're storing it anywhere within the 20 feet, that's the front yard.
The whole thing with this, you've already gone out there, you've worked with this property owner, and you've fixed the problem, so he is within compliance.
Yes, he would have to move the boat back 10 feet and put a fence up.
Which he planned on doing.
And it would be past the 20 feet.
Okay. Which is what he planned on doing. You've already spoken to him.
Other ones that are jutting out past the 20 feet, that's in the front yard.
Okay.
But if they moved it back behind the 20 feet, put up a fence, then they would be in compliance.
And that's fine.
So I just
I-
trying to...
And I think that's fine.
That sounds good.
Can this one go in the side yard? Is my question. Here, I'll give it. And that's-
Mark's been out there, yeah.
Because that was my question with the
Thank
two that came under for compliance, if they were just because they were so large that they couldn't comply, or just that they
This
needed-
particular one is the one that is legal. It's 10 feet, if he puts it back where it's located and puts up a fence, it is legal with the current ordinance.
He's moving it back and putting a fence around it. And that does meet the current ordinance.
That's one we went out to the site
Yeah.
with, and we looked at and said, you move it back, put the fence up, and you're good. And at the time in the field, he said, yes, that's fine, I can do that, and he was done with it.
Well, option B, we can go with an option B I presented, which was
Like
give a
Foster.
3-month continuance, have the property owners come and visit to see what we actually need to fix. And then they can come into the city and the city can evaluate. I mean, like I said, I'm game either way. This is a lose-lose situation.
I don't think we have a large group of people that are putting their boats or RVs on their front lawns. I don't think there's that many people out there. And I think we can work with the other ones.
Okay.
So, whether you want city staff to go out
No,
and
I'm fine.
and note it?
No, I agree. I'm fine either way. I'm with you. It's work. I get it.
I just think we need to find a compromise.
We do.
And like I said, I'm thinking from my experience of living in Thumbelina, and we walk all the time. We have a new grandson, so he likes to walk. We see them all. And like I said, you look at today's new toy haulers and the new motorhomes, they're so much different than when we bought our house 24 years ago, our neighbor was a big Elks RVer, and she had a huge Winnebago. But he was able to get all the way back into her backyard. When her husband passed away, I actually parked it in and out for her. I mean, it's doable.
Nice.
But today, if you got one of the bigger ones, that one's now not even a...
That's a baby, huh?
Yes, and so you can't do that. So those bigger ones, I think that's where we need to form the consensus, saying, okay, those are not the ones that you need to be parking in the backyard.
Parked in public.
Exactly. I just think not so much that they're nuisance, they're just not logical.
When the RV is bigger than the home.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
Exactly.
That's the problem.
And I agree with Dave. You look at these that are in the front yard, that it's a visual nuisance.
Okay. So we all agree that the garage setbacks, that can all be adjusted. We can
think so.
tweak those so that hopefully more RVs and boats will comply.
Yes, but I would say most. So I don't want to settle on 5 feet. I want to make sure.
Are you directing us to develop an ordinance or bring an ordinance back, or postpone it and
getting a different
study?
ordinance? Because
Because I don't want to spend time on an ordinance that may not be acceptable and move forward with the council, so.
Maybe, Mark, that we could just have some options. Some different options. And mine is that side setback, that's 2.5 feet from the curb, from property line, is just reverse those numbers. Make it 2.5 from your property line and 5 feet from the street. Because I'm looking at it from a safety aspect of people pulling in and out of their driveways. And there's, them, you've seen them out there, that some of these people have these things parked right to the street. And that is ridiculous. I mean, you can, even as RV owners, you can say that's ridiculous that somebody's parking their RV from their garage roof all the way to the street because it's a 45-foot trailer. I mean, really? I mean, come on. Even as RV owners, you can say that's a little ridiculous. You should have taken into consideration when you bought that if you had a 45-foot trailer and it was going to take up the entire side of your house from the roof line to the street, that you should have put a contingency in that you were going to store it somewhere besides your driveway. I mean, come on, that's ridiculous.
In fairness, I have neighbors, though, that don't have 45. They have much, much smaller ones. They don't have the room, and they've measured out their RV to meet and it comes pretty close to the sidewalk, I'm not sure they meet a 5-foot setback from the sidewalk. Their whole driveway isn't, their whole driveway is less than 20 feet or something like that, right?
26 to
Yeah, so I'm game for that. I just think, the setback should be to meet like significant majority.
From the
sidewalk.
sidewalk, or if there is no sidewalk, 5 feet from the curb.
Property, just say property line.
Yeah, so
Because that takes care of
I
both
think
of
5
them.
feet, you're, I don't think we're meeting, I don't
You
agree
think
with
that's-
that.
you-
I think that's too much.
4
I
feet?
do. I think it should be less than that. I really do. I really do. Because people have measured, we've heard everybody, right? Everybody has put their RV, they have measured, some people did the right thing, and they measured, and they said, okay, well, my RV is this long, it's going to fit in this driveway, and it's not going to protrude in the sidewalk. Well, then we're going to come in and we're going to do a setback on them. And then we've de facto taken out the driveway.
Right.
Right? So, and current, what's the 0802 setback rule?
I believe it's 5 feet.
Oh, so we just haven't, okay, so they just haven't been code enforced then?
Right.
All right.
Well, this one says 2 from property line and 5 from the side
Yeah, that's
yard.
the current
That's
one.
the
Current one, right.
Yes.
So my,
Well, then I say we meet the setback that's in 0802 then.
but
So
what
if we-
about
if we-
side yard?
So what's the side yard setback?
5
for-
feet.
See, I think that should be smaller, because I think you can get a
think
few
you
more of them
could.
back, and that would give you,
That's
Yeah,
fine.
A little more
Erase
leeway.
the-
That's fine. So we're
5
being
foot.
more lenient than 0802 on the side setback?
so I think that's the big, if
Yes.
they could, if you have to have 5 feet on the side, if you can get 3 feet, it's not that far from the property line. So I think
There is, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, no,
I was going to say,
but-
there's no side yard setback in the 08 ordinance,
Okay.
but it's 5 feet to the property line, the front property line.
Okay.
And
So there's no
3
side.
feet to
and the
the
new
main
one has
Well,
5 feet.
Right, the new one has
From
5
the
feet. Right.
side
Side and
yard.
2.5
and
from-
2.5 from the property line.
So,
Well,
So
so
you
what's-
want to keep it at 2.5.
I say we just meet yeah, so if we're being more fair on the property line on the short side, whatever, the front yard, then, and we have none on the side.
well, I think you should have some, because you should have access for emergency personnel or whatever.
Yeah, that's
you
the
should have some.
3 feet to the building.
Well, but
is in
the
there.
other ordinance doesn't have it at all, Dave.
But see, here's my problem, is if you have 5 feet from property line and 3 feet from house, there's some trailers that will not even fit on your side yard, correct? You could not put it on side yard because you have to maintain 5 feet from your neighbor's property line. See what I'm saying?
No, that's what I'm saying. Let's go, if there's
Well, but
zero, go ahead, I'm sorry.
But 0, come on, then
Well,
you shove it right up against a fence, and if there's fire and you're not home and fire department can't get there and whatever the case is.
That's the current ordinance. I'm with you.
No, there's a 3-foot requirement away from buildings.
Right,
Okay,
and
let's go
5
with
from
that then.
property line. No,
We
what I'm
already have
saying
that
is,
in both ordinances.
one
so.
side is 3, one side now is 5 from property line to your neighbor's house, property line. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah, so what are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that we reduce that because some people cannot get trailer on side yard because of the 5 foot from property
Sounds good to
line.
me.
So
do you
you
wanna
see what I'm
reduce it?
saying?
Yeah, what do
Just
you wanna-
reduce it to say 2.5 feet.
All
Make
right.
it like
So
March
2.5
3 and
feet on-
2.5 on the other side.
From your neighbors.
So 2.5 and 2.5.
Because more people would be able to get it in their side yard.
Let's do it.
right.
And you're okay with 2.5?
No, I think, because I think that's the issue, people cannot get that 5 foot
Right, from
easement.
property line.
From the property line.
And,
I
but
just think
where in the front yard area is this 2.5 and 2.5?
driveway.
Driveway, period. You can't add pavement in this, on your side. So you have a 2-car garage or a 3-car driveway, that's where you park it, and it's
No,
2.5,
I think you could,
2.5.
I think you should be allowed to add as well,
If you want to add.
if you want to add. I don't think you should be forced to add.
Well, but are you gonna put it on the side yard?
Well, you could put it on your
You're
driveway.
going to put it in your driveway. You're going to park your car on the front street. because-
Well,
Well, I
we-
see
we
what
have-
Mark's getting at.
Well, we
is
have
Put it on the
the,
side yard, it could be in your side yard, the grass.
in the,
Oh, yeah, we
well, that's front yard.
I have no problem with
Right.
that.
No, so I think what we're talking about is, this was
But can I-
originally designed.
Would you like
Yeah,
to?
go ahead.
Yeah, drop diagram, circles and arrows, paragraph.
Can you draw one more?
Stick figures?
stray.
More than stick figures, huh?
Would you like me to get you a template from my pink book? I knew this was going to be contentious. I knew this was going to be contentious.
Okay, we have the house, the 20-foot setback. This is the area we're talking about, is the 20-foot front setback.
What's the G?
Garage. Okay.
This area right here
It's
is
like
your rear and
quartz.
side yard. So you,
Garden
you can
gold.
park.
Garden. Roses.
So you can park in your rear and side yards.
Correct.
With the appropriate setbacks. So that's always been in 08, and that's been in the new one. That hasn't been an issue. So that's basically
Where's the driveway on said diagram?
I'm gonna getting there.
Oh, sorry, okay.
There's the driveway. So storing back here is not a problem behind a 6-foot fence. Everybody's
So let me stop you 1 second,
Sure.
Mark. Say if you have a fence to your left, on your diagram, to your left, you have a...
right there?
No, that whole line,
No, it's
that,
Right at the very,
that vertical,
right where that garage meets the house.
right.
Right here?
No, in between that garage and the line to your left, correct? Is there any setback in this ordinance to that?
That's what
Because I don't see that
that's
on
what I-
this.
Yeah, this is the key, is the 20 feet is right here. That's your...
Let me stop again, Mark.
Okay.
So let's say that line on the left is a fence, correct? And that is your property line where that fence is.
Well, your fence could be here, or your fence could be here.
The line on the left,
This one.
the vertical line on your
Yes,
left.
that's your
I see
property
that.
line.
Right, okay. It's not in this diagram here. Is there any setback between that fence and your RV?
3 feet. That's on that, it's on, should be on that diagram.
It does, it's not clear that it goes all the way down in this diagram.
But this area is not really in question because everybody can park there. That's not been any contention, anybody from anywhere. So that's the area it can be. But this 20-foot setback, this is the front setback. So right now, we've done the 5 feet and 2.5. You can add a piece of concrete there and store it there, or if you had a 3-car garage. So
So you either have, so just to make sure we're clear, it's not that you can, it's that if you do not have a 3-car garage, you have to add it.
you have to add it.
Okay, let's
That's the
make sure we're
current
clear.
ordinance.
Okay.
I didn't read that.
So now,
I didn't read that.
where are we going?
So so what I was...
Madam Mayor, may I? Oh, Mark, let me go up there and show you. This is where I'm having an issue. This line is your 5-foot setback, right?
No. No.
This is what I was asking you. Let's say your property line is this fence, right?
No.
Okay? So is there, and it's not on this diagram, is there any setback between this 5 feet and your property line?
No.
Because it's not on the
Yeah,
diagram.
yes, it is. There's a sign that says, there's a little identification. In this area, it's 3 feet.
Just mark it. Mark it so we
Yeah,
understand.
just-
That's not right.
This is 3 feet.
Visual helps.
This is 3 feet.
Right.
Right.
It's only... Can I help you?
All
Dave,
these artists.
Dave, this is the line. This is 5 feet. This is 3 feet.
No, that's between the house.
No, this is the property. This is the property line. This from here
But
to
it's, see,
here.
am I
No,
not seeing it?
Right.
It's at the top.
But it's at the very top. 5 feet from...
Construct your property.
feet.
Thank you.
But my
Yes.
question is that 5 feet run all the way down to
No,
the back?
No.
only in the front
Only in the
area.
front.
Once you-
See, I'm trying to,
Just this
the
little corner.
20
That's-
feet is the only
That's
issue
clarified,
in
because it
in
doesn't
question.
show that on
That's
this
true.
diagram.
It doesn't
So
show that.
if we change that to 2.5 all the way back,
Well,
So let him ask the
2 feet?
question.
the 20 feet, that's
Yes.
the issue.
Yes.
The rear and side yards, there's been no issues, so we're not dealing with that. Those can be there. I'm trying to get, what does the council want to do in the front area? That's been the bone of contention amongst everyone. Do you want to change to 2.5 and 2.5 and leave it as is? Do you want to allow them to park in the driveway, not park in the driveway? What do you want to do? Allow them over
So I thought
here?
so help me out. I thought the consensus, so not talking about the back, only the front setback.
Right.
Front area.
Yes. Right.
Stop using the word setback. I think
But that's what it is.
I understand, but
Okay.
for the sake of, I talk like a 4-year-old, so I'll just continue to link up. All right, so in the front area, the consensus that at least I discussed was being able to park it in the driveway. You have an option to add a the third area if you'd like, right? And the setback, so if Dave wants the setback 2.5 on 2.5, then that's fine. Now, hold on, we haven't discussed the other area over here where you have a circle.
Are we in consensus with that?
Yeah, let's
though?
cover that area item first.
Yes. Yes.
Not to interfere, are we allowed to speak?
No.
No. Oh, because I've been using.
I know you, but see, now you told me outside before we came in that you were going to use part of your 3 minutes for ideas. So now council's trying to come up with ideas.
So yes, there you go.
Yes, I think the consensus is
agrees.
driveways, if you could, if they have, I would think most RV and boat owners will try to put it to the side so they can use their garage. But if their RV is so big that it will not fit to the side there, then yeah, I don't have,
So, let me,
it's their property.
driveway to their garage. If they don't have that, they can add a pad, 2.5, 2.5, 2.5.
So what? So question. This is the question. I want to make sure I understand. In the current ordinance, not the new one, in the old ordinance, because I think we approved
Yes.
it. In the old ordinance, what was the setback on the driveway?
5 feet from here to here.
Okay, so let's make it 2.5 feet, and we've given everybody an extra 2.5 feet over the old ordinance. No? No?
As long as it's safe.
Well, that's fine. That's why we're here to discuss it.
Well, to your point, as long as it's not in the sidewalk.
That's how I feel, yeah.
So,
So-
your driveway, I don't know, so
Yeah.
sorry.
Because there's no.
And there's no sidewalks in Thumbelina. That's,
Exactly.
see, that's.
So you're-
No,
so I'm thinking
hold on.
Are we doing
Hey,
this?
Steven.
So this is a sidewalk.
I
No,
can't,
hey,
yeah,
Steven,
I'm
Steven.
afraid we can't,
That's okay.
sir.
I know.
Council time.
I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
As a project manager, that's what I do for.
I appreciate it, but
So Holly, you were saying that I don't have the opportunity to input because I walked out?
can
but
be
you're
the-
no, not that you walked out. We just asked him to sit down. When I close public session,
I'll have a good editorial on this, it's okay.
I'm sure you do, Larry. I'm sure you do. I'm sure you do.
Foster, would you be
When we
willing to
close
go
public
3.5?
comment, bring it back.
I don't care.
3.5 from property line.
That's fine. If the current, so if the old ordinance is 5 feet, anything less than that is gravy.
So if we-
I mean, everyone's telling us to go back to the old ordinance, but giving them more options.
To the sidewalk or 3.5
Property line,
feet,
property line.
whatever is.
Property
yeah,
line.
We
'cause-
give them an extra 3.5. Sounds
Would you be
good.
willing to go 3.5 on
Yes.
property line?
Yeah, or, I just don't, I want people to be able to walk.
No, what I'm saying is you
Yeah.
have,
Yeah.
you're giving 3.5 feet from either sidewalk is your property line or the curb is your property line. So 3.5
See,
feet.
I
from
don't,
there.
I don't
From
mind,
house-
I don't mind an RV coming to the sidewalk.
I agree.
I don't mind that. I just, people should be able to walk safely down a sidewalk.
It just needs to be, yeah.
That's,
I would defer back to your 2.5.
So the only thing we're talking about is, so Holly, here's my only thing.
Mhm.
The old ordinance,
right,
what everyone wants us to go back to,
right.
has 5 feet from the sidewalk.
Correct.
What we're saying is make it 2.5 feet. So we're actually making it less
No,
restrictive.
I agree. I think
Okay.
that's wonderful. I just want, as long as they can get an RV or a boat in that driveway and it's not a safety issue.
I agree, but we've got to have some sort of setback. It's 12 inches or 24 inches. I mean, there's got to be some area. So if the current one's 60 and we're going to go with
Well,
2
is the
and
property line, is that the curb or is that the other end of the
that's
sidewalk?
the side. That's the
See, there's sidewalk,
sidewalk.
is your property line.
If you just say property line, it takes care of all situations. So you don't have to worry about sidewalk,
Your
curb,
property is not the sidewalk.
property line.
Your property is where the sidewalk starts. But the original one, what Foster was pointing out, is 5. the old ordinance, okay? So there are a lot of people now that are not in compliance, even with the old one that everybody wants to keep. So if we wanted to go out and enforce that, the people that are up to the curb line are not in compliance with the old ordinance as well. They are not in compliance. So what Foster and I are saying is make it 2.5, which cuts that down by 2.5 feet from the old ordinance. See what I'm saying? There are a lot of people in this town that are not in compliance with the
So
5.
somebody's 3 inches off.
No one's going to chicken anybody like that, Larry, really. But if there's a lot of people in this town that are not in compliance, even with the old ordinance that you were fighting to preserve, we're giving you 2.5 feet.
No, you're taking feet away.
No.
No, we're not.
The old ordinance that you are desperately fighting to preserve right now
I don't even know
is
what
5 feet. Okay? So there are a lot of people, and this is what I have a problem with.
Councilmember King.
There's a lot of people that, right now, what I'm talking about, that their RV is parked to the curb, are not in compliance with the ordinance that you are fighting to preserve.
So we've decided
So
on the
if we
2.5.
stayed with the old one, there are a lot of people in this town that
So-
right now are not in compliance, and we
Driveway-
could tell them to move it.
I
Just so
think,
you know, I'm not.
Right, I understand this, but this is not a discussion. This is not a discussion, Larry. I'm talking.
Correctly, so let me explain.
Larry, I'm talking.
I'm not trying to preserve the 2008. I just don't want you on my property.
Councilmember King. Mark, go on. Go on,
Okay.
Mark. So we're on to driveway now. I don't have I have, if they cannot put their vehicle completely, if the pad that they put, or they don't have the 3-car, or they have the 3-car and the RV or boat extends into their driveway a little bit, I have no problem with that.
So driveway, pad on the short side, 2.5 and 2.5.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, all right. So, but
Okay.
the big part of the lawn in the front area,
So of the 60, do you have any idea, of the 60 people, I'm assuming that driveway issue is probably over 45 people to probably more than 55 people of the list of people.
and they probably, if they're over here, could move it there. So,
Okay, so are there any cases where they're dealing with this, do we need to deal with this other front area?
yes, you do, because there are several that are over here in this area. So they would have to move to this particular area. But again, you can't look at all and address
Thank you
all
for coming.
situations. You got to try to get what is the balance and the equity.
So if it's pushed back, so in the case of the picture,
If it was pushed back past the 20 feet and put a
he was
fence.
pushed back 20 feet anyway.
Yes.
Okay, so
Yeah,
he
so
would-
that situation, the boat was probably about 5 feet here. It moves 5 feet here with a fence, and it's done. There's no issue, and I got concurrence that he was willing to do it when we first sent the letters out.
Okay, so may I propose this? Why don't we, I think we've reached good consensus here, and I'll just put this out there.
I appreciate that.
Let's press with this. Let Mark do an evaluation of who's actually affected now with the new ordinance, with the updates to the second iteration of the 9th iteration of the ordinance. I don't know, not funny. Mark's already angry at me. And then maybe at that point when it comes back, we could have a better idea of how many people are actually affected by the front yard area or not affected. Mark, what are your thoughts on that? Giving me weird looks. Look at this. I like
So,
this.
well, I'm trying to figure out what do you want an ordinance brought back with some of the issues we discussed, or not brought back and more information brought back?
Well, I think your 20-foot setback is not a bad idea. My nuisance is when you see an RV or a boat on somebody's front lawn. That's a nuisance to other neighbors. And if you have your 20-foot setback and you have a fence around it,
Yeah, but I think Mark's asking, do we want it to come back with an ordinance, or do you want to press with this information and have him come back with additional information?
that's totally up to you
need to
guys.
I think that's what Mark's asking.
I think that's what we need to do.
Okay.
That way you can have a...
Is option
you can-
B?
Yes, then you can have a discussion about it.
Sure.
I think he knows where we're going, the 2.5, 2.5, 20-foot setback. Come back, see if it works. And if it doesn't work, then we need to talk about it.
But nothing on the other part of the lawn area. So we got your driveway, the short side, and everything on the other side is not within the 20-foot area is not.
Do you want him to look at the
Permitted.
20-foot setback and
So I
see
think-
if,
No, I think that's what we agreed on, just like it's written on the board.
Where the zero is?
No, so that, there would be an X where the zero is essentially. It'd have to be behind the 20 feet to be allowed.
you do want him
Right.
to look and see what can be put with the 20-foot setback? Whether these property owners, these RV and boat owners are able to put their, let's say their boat on that driveway side or behind a 20-foot setback?
I would just,
That's what we're asking city staff to do?
I'm game either way, like I said. I'm more focused on the driveway. The front yard.
What?
I think the front yard's a red line, in my opinion.
Why?
That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Instead of going through all of those iterations, maybe I just don't develop the ordinance, but I come back with some wording based on this, and we have another session, and let
Public comment.
public comment.
Let's do it.
And then I don't have to go through the ordinance, the public hearing stuff, but we'll at least have some wording, some more wording out there to take a
And
look
in the
at.
meantime, staff will get out, drive around, and see exactly what owners can comply and which ones cannot.
We'll do our
and
best.
what we need to do.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'd rather have the yard.
Is that, that's direction?
Yes. I like to have the yard. As
Yeah, and
yard.
consensus on no enforcement at this point, until we
Correct.
look at it.
Oh, absolutely.
So I just want to make sure that was,
No,
that was
absolutely. Absolutely.
That's not really, he took his yard out.
Right.
All righty. Thank you all for sitting around through all this. I think you've got direction. We're going to move on to city manager's report. Thank you very much for coming.
everybody.
Thank you very much for coming.
This doesn't bother me. It's 5 feet off this.
Oh, yeah, because here's the...
This house.
After city manager's report, we're going to take a quick break. If you want to wait 2 minutes, I'd love to talk to you. Okay. City manager's report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I've given you all copies of the current draft of the Avenue Flag specific plan that will be going before the Planning Commission on August 17th for recommendation to the City Council. We've accommodated and incorporated the council comments from the last meeting that we had, as well as commission comments and public comments, and we think this is the document that we'll be able to move forward with. So it's out there, and we'll go from there. I've applied for 2 FEMA Notice of Intent grants, one for emergency generator at City Hall, and another one for a cloud GIS system that would allow us to share data with the county and Solvang and other jurisdictions in real time in an emergency. So I've put 2 of those grants together on that.
Link to the EOC in Santa Barbara with the cloud GIS.
Oh, yeah, yeah, they would be able to access us and vice versa. So if we have some road closures, we can put it on a map, and they can immediately print the map out down there instead
Put it
of
on
us.
Twitter for us.
No, not Twitter, but Nixel maybe.
Oh,
Yeah. And don't forget, nobody brought up what's happened on Saturdays, barbecue bonanza.
Woo, be there, be square.
Yes. So that's it for me, and then I think Steve has an announcement, then we can take a little break.
Mr. McEwen?
Thank you. Item number 9 is a closed session conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation under Government Code Section 54956.9, subdivision D4, and we do those. I recite that out of an abundance of caution. There was a case where they said, hey, you guys recited the wrong section. That argument didn't succeed, but it resulted in a published opinion, so that's why I'm careful. It's just one case.